Okay, I'd like to talk to the managers or the office administrators, and we'll use FC3. Face-to-face among this group is something which really sets the tone for the entire organization. They have an opportunity to not only understand the face-to-face that occurs backstage with their team members, front stage with the customers, and a combination of both. It's very critical that these people really embrace that face-to-face. They have to be people. What that means is they have to take the ball as far as forming relationships with their staff. They are in a position of authority. We can't undermine that, so it has to be appropriate, but it has to come from a place of concern, of care, of respect. When they respect their staff, that will translate right through the entire office, a very critical face-to-face interface. And as well, and we could actually talk about this in terms of the doctors as well on this team, because many doctors become the administrators of the office. Different hat, different role than when you're a primary producer, but if you're one of those people that is managing your office, this is for you as well, doctors. So the ability to relate in terms of a supportive, communicative fashion with your team is so important. Keep in mind our table of organization. We're a very supportive organization that's bottom up. The top is always our customer. That works down to our frontline members, right through our different teams, right to our communicators, and right down to our administrators who are right there hand in hand with our owners. So that face-to-face is something which will really set the tone for that wonderful culture that exists in the office. So going through the next one, let's talk about the 3 C's. Communication. Number one, you have to know how to communicate. You have to know how to communicate in terms of where we're going with the vision, what the values are. This is where we take all of our foundational principles of V2, TP, and work them right through the entire organization. That has to be right there all the time, and that's what we're communicating through. So they're the ones who truly understand what happens in the minutiae of everybody's day. They also understand clearly the impact of all the different roles and how they link and synchronize together. They have to understand the communication that occurs on all these levels is up to them to be the director, so to speak. They're the director of communication in the office. They need to be in charge, careful. They don't necessarily need to be in control. Giving up control, in terms of the traditional way of talking about control, allows them to be in charge, and that starts with communication. The second C, coaching. If you were to actually talk to most managers and most administrators or doctor owners, the number one thing that I believe carries the most benefit in an organization is the ability to coach our team. Now, the amount of time that's spent on that is probably not as much as we should. We constantly end up putting out fires, albeit we have to put out fires. Kind of the buck stops there as far as making sure that things run smoothly. Now, to be able to coach requires that communication, requires that face-to-face. They're all interrelated. But coaching is something that becomes, I believe, one of the primary responsibilities right underneath face-to-face with the office administrators. So finally, the final C, command. This is where we tie everything together. The command that's required is not a command that comes from a club and a stick. It's to be in command of what's happening throughout the whole office. It's to be in command of what happens with your team, to synchronize those wonderful day-to-day actions and responsibilities. So it's almost like an ongoing performance. So there's an interesting way of thinking about command, the responsibility of command. Now, if you think about this, it's not about using force. It's not about taking your position of authority and moving forward your agenda because you can. Command is very much about understanding what's happening. It's about trying to get a desired end result from your entire team. So the command part of this is something that kind of embraces everything that this person is doing. So command is about leadership. And in times of leadership, what you'll find is this breeds confidence. And the confidence comes from the clarity that comes from the person who's leading according to strong values in the business. Better still, if that person has personal values that everybody understands and appreciates. Therein lies the vision that comes from the leadership, that somebody who's in command of this, it'll go right through the organization and it'll build that culture that we want. So let's talk about FC3. You've got an individual that's in a position that they know how to communicate. They know how to relate. They're very much in command of everything they do. They're a true leader who understands what it takes from the ground level right up on through what happens at backstage. This person is truly in a position not only to have the trust of their team so they can bring forward the coaching, that they can also get the end result that everybody gets, because what they're in command of is the absolute values and the vision that this business has. There's your FC3.